And I didn't really get a chance to talk about it because I wanted to learn a little bit more about the information before I said too much. And everybody's talking about it, and people have kind of sort of slowed down talking about it. So now I'm like, okay, I can talk about it. And this next article, the next two articles are actually from Live Action. If you don't know what Live Action is, they are a website that, Live Action like news. They report on a lot of like pro-life type things that are going on. And what else do they do? They write about pro-life things that are going on, and they also have different ambassadors that like go out and kind of like help teach and spread the word. They've done like Baby Olivia. They have done different rallies. They have really good information at whatisanabortion.com that kind of talks about the different types of abortions. If you have a friend or something that's just so staunch, and you talk to them and they make comments, and you're like, you know what, have you ever seen an abortion before? Whatisanabortion.com is a really good resource for you, or abortionprocedures.com is another good resource for you. And it's all the things they do are done with doctors, many former abortionists who have seen what they have done wrong and have repented and want to now do something right. So that's Live Action. All right, here we go. The Alabama Supreme Court rules embryos created via IVF are human children. The Alabama Supreme Court ruled last week, so about 2 weeks ago, that human embryos created via IVF are to be considered children protected by law under the state's Wrongful Death Act in the Alabama Constitution. The case, LePage v. Mobile Infirmary Clinic, Inc., originated when the frozen embryos of several couples stored at the Center for Reproductive Medicine at the Mobile Infirmary Medical Center were destroyed after a client was somehow able to access the facility and handle the embryos, resulting in their destruction. In their lawsuit, the couples argued that the embryos should be considered people under the state's wrongful death statute. A lower court ruled that the embryos were not human beings. The Supreme Court's 8-1 decision overturned that ruling. And it's the Alabama Supreme Court. Really quick, every state has their own Supreme Court, just like every state has their own Congress. So I think sometimes just some people don't know that. I just wanted to add that. The court also upheld that the Alabama Constitution Sanctity of Life Amendment, which was ratified in 2018, required the court to rule in favor of the preborn. The amendment states that it is the public policy of the state to recognize and support the sanctity of unborn life and the rights of unborn children, including the right to life. Unborn children are children under the Act, without exception, based on developmental stage, physical location, or any other ancillary characteristics, said Justice J. Mitchell. The Wrongful Death of a Minor Act is sweeping and unqualified. It applies to all children born and unborn without limitation. It is not the role of this court to craft a new limitation based on our own view of what is or is not wise public policy. That is especially true where, as here, the people of the state have adopted a constitutional amendment directly aimed at stopping courts from excluding unborn life from legal protection. The court noted that there is no unwritten exception to the law and that it applies to all children, including to unborn children who are not physically located in utero, that is, inside a biological uterus, at the time they are killed. Live Action founder and president Lila Rose responded to the ruling in a statement saying, "The decision made by the Alabama Supreme Court affirms the scientific reality that a new human life begins at the moment of fertilization. Each person, from the tiniest embryo to an elder nearing the end of his life, has incalculable value that deserves and is guaranteed legal protection." This ruling, which involved a wrongful death claim brought by parents against a fertility clinic that negligently caused the death of their children, rightly acknowledged the humanity of unborn children created through in vitro fertilization, IVF, and is an important step toward applying equal protection for all. The term embryo denotes a stage in human development, much the same as the words infant, toddler, or teenager. The preborn child is a human being with its own distinct DNA from the moment of conception. Even when it is as small as an embryo, the case underscores one of the most significant problems with IVF, as countless embryonic preborn children are created and then discarded when they are deemed unfit or unwanted. Whew, that was the whole article. I wanted to read that because I just wanted to get the full case. Because a lot of people have opinions on this. A lot of people have stated their opinion. A lot of people have been frustrated with the results. And a lot of actions have been taken because fertility clinics in Alabama have closed. I should have pulled that up really quick. I want to read I want to get the full, just so you guys know what is going on. Alabama fertility. Okay. Let's go to news. Alabama fertility. Let's see. Here we go. So this is from NBC News, and 3 Alabama clinics pause IVF services after court rules that embryos are children. Essentially, what a lot of these facilities are doing is they have suspended services as they consider the legal repercussions of the decision. Now, so essentially, all right, let me read to you the statement they said. In its statement, Alabama Fertility said it was trying to find solutions for affected patients and working as hard as we can to alert our legislators as to the far-reaching negative impact of this ruling on the women of Alabama. A spokesperson said the health system will continue to offer egg retrieval, but will no longer fertilize eggs or develop embryos. We are saddened that this will impact our patients' attempt to have a baby through IVF, but we must evaluate the potential that our patients and our physicians could be prosecuted criminally or face punitive damages for following the standard of care for IVF treatments. Okay. So I just wanted to give you like the full context of like why people are upset, like what's going on. First, I want to say, I understand completely how it feels to want to be a mom, to be pregnant, and have your own biological child. And that being difficult. I understand that because I am almost 30 and not dating or anything resembling dating. And as we know, statistically, half of my eggs will be gone by the end of this year. So I completely understand. I want a child so badly. I cannot express how badly I would love to be a mom. So I want everyone listening to understand where I'm coming from. Because I've said this before, sometimes the women who are talking about this and talk so assuredly and they can't even imagine how it feels. I definitely know how it feels. I know how it feels to pray, to want so badly to have a child. So I want to give you that caveat. That's the first thing. Second thing, I don't think IVF children are any less important. I don't think they're any different than a child naturally born. I don't have any animosity toward IVF children. I don't even have animosity to people who have done IVF. Where my problem lies is with the process in general. A couple of things. So I've watched a couple documentaries because I've said this before. I have thought about getting my eggs removed. Way too expensive, so that idea. But I looked into it, and there's just some things that they don't tell you aside from it being expensive. So it's kind of, I don't say elitist, but like you have to have the money to do it. Aside from that, there is also the aspect of it's no guarantee. I don't remember the statistics. I can link some like a podcast or something where I heard something or an article or something like that. If I remember, I'll try to link that. But like, and you can look it up yourself. Like statistically, it's actually really hard for the egg and sperm to even, like, it's a statistical miracle if you do have a child via IVF, comparatively to all of the eggs that have been retrieved over the years. Anyway, it's a statistical miracle if you have a child. So, and that's just kind of something they don't really tell you. It's just the whole process of creating children and then freezing them and then discarding them because of X, Y, and Z, or, sometimes they're discarded because they find genetic abnormality. Sometimes they're discarded because, I really just wanted girls and these are all boys. Sometimes they're discarded because, I just really don't want them anymore. There was, I want to say Sofia Vergara, or one of the celebrities. There was like a big thing because when they got a divorce, it was like, okay, where do our embryos go? I don't think it was Sofia Vergara, now that I'm saying it out loud. Maybe it was Sherry Shepherd. Anyway, the point is, like, there was like, where are my eggs? So like, there's, things like that. You get a divorce and like, okay, who owns these embryos? Just get rid of them. There's all these other things. So that is where the problem lies, because egg plus sperm equals human embryo. That is scientific reality, as Lila put it. Therefore, there are frozen children that are just frozen in time. They're just there, frozen in time. What does that mean? They deserve equal protection, just like every other human. I love how Lila put it. Let me read what she said. Each person, from the tiniest embryo to an elder nearing the end of his life, has incalculable value that deserves and is guaranteed legal protection. And that is 100% where I stand. That is what I believe. And because of that, I agree with this ruling. Embryos have a right to life. Here's where people are getting upset and frustrated. The IVF clinics don't know how to operate. They're concerned about legal ramifications. Now, I haven't heard anyone say this. I personally think part of it, like, if you truly, whenever I see things like this and I hear, oh, this is so terrible, so awful, I want to think about it from their perspective. Like, I want to think, okay, why? So, like, let's say you run an IVF clinic and you truly don't believe that embryos are human and you're just trying to do your job. I understand wanting to pause for trying to figure out, like, how are we going to do this legally? But to me, if I'm going to be honest, my first thought is, like, they're pausing. It could be for politicalness, just to, like, make a point. Like, we're going to make a point. We're going to show these people. Or B, I'm like, okay, wait a second. How often are they, like, dropping? I don't know. I'm just using this as an example. How often are they dropping embryos? How often are they discarding embryos? How often are they, like, because, like I read in the article, it said, following the standard care for IVF treatments, how often are mistakes happening? If you go, so this is the scenario. This is where my mind went. This scenario, okay, I go and they actually they're actually able to make 12 embryos. And I'm like, yes, yay. But they only tell me they can make 6 because somebody left the door open and, like, something happened. There's just so many different things. Like, to me, it's just kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, mistakes happen, sure. Like, how often are they happening that you feel like you have to pause the standard care for IVF treatments? I don't know. That's where my mind went. That was a little sketch. So that is why a couple people have asked me, like, what's going on? Why are people feeling that way? That is why people are upset. They're upset because IVF treatment has stopped in Alabama, and they're scared of, like, what the next steps are going to be. I saw a lot of people, well, next, if a woman has a miscarriage, they're going to put women in jail for miscarriages. That's not going to happen. I saw other people making comment. You know what? Let me not, like, say it like that. Like, Well, I can say like that for the person I'm thinking of that said that, because he was just being very rude. And it was like, hey, you guys, like he said it to me. He was just being very rude, talking over a woman on a reproductive issue. What? But I do understand people's concern. I don't want to minimize people's concern. If this is, I personally do not think IVF is right, because, like I said, the process, you are freezing children, and you're throwing away unwanted ones, ones that don't meet your specific medical requirements that you put on the child. Like, that is why it's wrong. That's why I'm against IVF. Now, so like there are people who are legitimately, who I think have legitimate concerns, and like their hearts are good, they just don't see it that way, and blah blah blah. So like I don't want to diminish their concern, but you're not going to be put in jail for a miscarriage. Like that's what people are saying. Like they're like, oh, that's the next step. They're gonna put us in jail for miscarriage. No, that's not gonna happen. And I think that's part of the problem that the pro-aborts have, is they're constantly going to like the absolute worst. This is going to be the worst thing. This is what's going to happen. And I'm saying that, like, I think sometimes we do that too. I think ours is like rooted in like reality. I think theirs is not. But like, that's, now that I'm saying, it's a human problem that we have. We go to the worst possible step. But like, what I like to do is I try to think logically. If you're going to say intentionally, so you would be intentionally, okay, you made the embryo. Mom and dad, oh, she won't have blue, she won't have brown hair. I want my daughter to have brown hair. None of this red. Get rid of her. That is an intentional thing. You going about your life and unfortunately having a miscarriage, that's not intentional. That's not, that's not, and that, this is speaking logically. Like there's an absolute difference. So that's what's going on in the IVF world. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think that this ruling was appropriate? Do you think that it wasn't appropriate? Do you agree with the ruling? Even if you thought it was appropriate, do you agree with it? Do you think that some of these clinics are kind of using this opportunity kind of for a political gain? What are your thoughts on that? Okay, last article is another one from Live Action, and this is something we've talked about before, and this is just more of an announcement. CVS and Walgreens to announce plans to begin selling abortion pills within the month.